Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are stepping into a time machine and heading straight back to 1867. We're going to explore a massive transitional period in post-Civil War America, and we're doing it through a highly personal, deeply fascinating lens, the Auble family of Terre Haute, Indiana. Instead of just looking at sweeping historical trends from 30,000 feet, we're going to look right through the front window of one family's home to see exactly how history was lived out on a daily basis.
Okay, let's dive right into this. We'll start with a welcome to Terre Haute, then meet the Auble family. From there, we'll explore the shoemaker's trade, look at schooling and civic pride, unpack community, faith, and fun, and finally wrap up with a family-facing change.
Welcome to Terre Haute, a river town on the brink.
In 1867, Terre Haute was absolutely humming with potential. We catch up with the Auble family just 2 years after their relocation from New Jersey, right as the ground was literally shifting beneath their feet. The town's old economy, which was heavily reliant on pork processing, was in a steep decline post-Civil War. But look at what was taking its place. That very same year, 1867, coal was discovered in neighboring Clay County. This triggered an absolute boom in iron furnaces, foundries, and rolling mills. The town's rail connections were expanding fast, bringing in new workers and creating immense economic opportunity for anyone willing to put in the work.
Moving right along to Section 2, meet the Auble family. 6 children, 1 roof.
Now, what's really interesting about this family is the incredible range of life stages represented, all under one roof. We have David, the 50-year-old master shoemaker, and his wife, Sarah, in her late 40s. Then you have the young adults, William, who is about 22 and working, and Fanny, around 20. Charles is 17 or 18 and actually eyeing a very different future as a painter. Kate is 15 or 16, likely wrapping up her schooling. And then we have the absolute youngest, Anna, 8, and little Cora, just 6 or 7, who is just starting her education. It's wild to think about, right? This single household spans practically every major life stage of the era, from a seasoned professional all the way down to a child just starting school.
Section 3, the shoemaker's trade, crafting community.
So our patriarch, 50-year-old David Auble, brought decades of experience from Sussex County, New Jersey, to capitalize on Terre Haute's growth. Back then, a shoemaker was a highly respected artisan who handcrafted and custom-fitted boots and shoes. It's a huge contrast to the mass-produced consumer goods we buy today, isn't it? A good shoemaker's reputation for quality and honest work meant absolutely everything when it came to sustaining a business. Just imagine the sensory details of David's bustling Main Street shop, the rich smell of raw leather, the steady tap-tap of the cobbler's hammer, and the constant lively hum of conversation. People came in for a custom fit, but because the shop served as a vital hub for community news, they stayed to hear what was happening around town.
This intense focus on individual craftsmanship meant the shop was truly a family enterprise. It was the ultimate training ground for the next generation. It was completely normal for young men like William and Charles to learn the trade here, helping their father out before establishing their own independence. It's pretty fascinating to note, though, that while they learned the ropes side by side, Charles would eventually chart a completely different path, ultimately choosing a career in painting rather than following his father's footsteps into shoemaking.
All right, Section 4, Schooling and Civic Pride, the Education Boom.
And this brilliantly illustrates the era's shifting priorities. While the older boys worked in the shop, the younger girls, Anna and Cora, are a perfect lens to view the massive expansion of Indiana's public education system. Terre Haute Commercial College opens up in 1862. By our focus year of 1867, little Anna and Cora are attending local common schools, learning reading, writing, arithmetic, and the standard moral instruction typical of that time. Then, just 3 years later in 1870, the Indiana State Normal School opens its doors. Terre Haute took immense civic pride in its schools, rapidly transforming into a major educational hub that deeply valued self-improvement.
Section 5, Community, Faith, and Fun. Life off the clock.
While the Auble family's social life was deeply anchored by their strict devotion to the Centenary Methodist Episcopal Church, outside those church doors, the city was growing up fast. Terre Haute was actively modernizing with brand new fire departments, vastly improved waterworks, and a rapidly rising immigrant population of German and Irish families seeking out new industrial opportunities. This ambitious, bustling civic environment was actively planting the seeds for the town's future prominence. It would eventually become home to major historical institutions and historical figures like labor leader Eugene V. Debs. For a transplanted family like the Aubles, getting involved in this local civic life was exactly how you became part of the town.
But that brings us to a really fascinating question.
How did a family entertain themselves in 1867 without any modern technology? Seriously, I want you to genuinely imagine an evening with absolutely zero screens, no phones, no streaming, no internet whatsoever. What did those analog joys of the 19th century actually look like for a household of 8 people?
Well, those analog joys were simple, but they were profound. Evenings often centered around reading aloud by the hearth and writing letters back home to New Jersey. Imagine the family hymn singing around a parlor organ, which, by the way, was a real mark of respectability if you could afford one. For the young ones, like Anna and Cora, free hours were filled with marbles, dolls, hoop rolling, and the sheer excitement of watching the new steamboats and trains arrive along the river corridor. Meanwhile, for the older teens, life was all about modest courting at church socials and visiting friends. Seasonally, you had winter sledding on Terre Haute's gentle slopes and summer river escapes on the Wabash to beat the heat. It's such a vivid sensory contrast between the older kids' expanding social lives and the younger girls' simple neighborhood games.
And that brings us to our final section, number 6, a family facing change, the fleeting present. So the crucial point is that underneath all these comforting routines lay a deeply poignant tension. This snapshot of 1867 captures a beautiful but inherently fragile moment. This unity just wouldn't last forever. Over the coming years, William eventually makes his way out west to Kansas City. Charles moves to Chicago and eventually all the way to California, and Anna marries and moves to Illinois. Despite being wonderfully contained under one roof right now in 1867, the immense energy, the railroads, and the economic opportunity of post-war American growth would soon scatter these children across the entire country.
It leaves us with a powerful thought that beautifully summarizes their legacy. A family under one roof, a shoemaker father building a reputation for honest work, and a town around them, humming with the energy of post-war American growth. It really gives you a profound sense of this fleeting, golden moment in their family history, standing right on the precipice of a rapidly modernizing America.
And that brings us to a final question I want to leave you with today. How does your own family's history map onto the changing economic and social landscapes of their times? Because those massive macro-historical shifts, like the discovery of coal or the boom of public schools, they always trickle down to the family dinner table. I hope this explainer empowers you to look back at your own genealogy through this macro-historical lens. What economic booms or technological shifts scattered your ancestors? It's an absolutely fascinating way to look at the past. Thanks for joining me on this incredible journey back to 1867, and as always, keep exploring.